Good morning, everybody. Welcome to today's 1 million by 1 million strategy roundtable for entrepreneurs. 1M by 1M, as you know, is the first and only global virtual accelerator. We run it out of Silicon Valley with the mission of helping 1 million entrepreneurs reach $1 million and beyond in annual revenue. Of course, that doesn't mean that we are trying to fund 1 million companies. We are huge supporters and proponents of bootstrapping. And of course, we also have lots of entrepreneurs who are interested in raising money, have raised money, etc. The largest company in our portfolio has raised $150 million since they were in the program and have been very successful. But we also have many entrepreneurs who are not raising money, so all that is fine. All of those strategies are perfectly fine within this community, and as long as you build a successful business with customers, revenues, and profits, everything is good. So this is our 383rd free mentoring roundtable. This has been going on since the fall of 2008, so coming up to 10 years. And you will have a recording of the session, as you have recordings of every other session that we have done available on our YouTube channel, 1M1M Roundtables. If you are looking for learning material, listen to lots of these roundtable recordings and you will get a lot out of it. They are good learning material. And if you are following us on Twitter, please, I guess if you are following already, then you know, but if you're not following yet and you'd like to follow, use hashtag 1M1M or hashtag, at 1M1M or at Shromana. Those are our two handles. Hashtag 1M1M is the hashtag for today's tweeting. So if you are live tweeting the show, use hashtag 1M1M. Now, we are not quite ready for call-ins yet, but this is a roundtable, not a broadcast. So we do want you to participate as much as possible. So make a note of the numbers. I will put the slide back up again later on when we are ready for you to call in and participate. And you can also use the public chat on your right panel throughout the show to participate, ask questions, offer your thoughts and so forth. We're starting today with a conversation with Rajeev Madhavan, founder and general partner of Clear Ventures. I have known Rajeev for a long time, and we haven't talked in a bit, so there are new developments. I'm really looking forward to catching up with you, Rajeev. Welcome to the show.
Happy to be on the show, Srimana. Yes, it's been a long time since we chatted.
Yes. So tell us about Clear Ventures. What is the agenda? Tell us about the firm. How big is it? What is the investing focus? What size investments are you making?
So Clear Ventures, again, was formed in 2016, July is when we actually did our second closing. The first closing happened in October. We are a 121 million venture fund, first Clear One. And we focus mostly on B2B investments. Though there is nothing that prevents us from doing in any particular area. We are purely opportunistic and we are here to make money. There is no doubt whatsoever that's our goal and mission. We're not into the belief that you go with a particular theme alone in terms of investments. And the reason is very simple. Things come in and out. There's no AI funds that have succeeded or this fund that will succeed because things just keep changing in the Valley, and it's that constant change and evolution of the Valley that makes this a very great hotbed. We focus on early stage, meaning seed, and typically given my co-partners' experiences as entrepreneurs before doing a fund, we focus on very, very early stage, traditionally what people would call angel level seed. So we like to write 1 to 4 million checks, all the way low end could be in the 200K range of things. We can go up to 4 million in the first round, which we have done in programs that require that kind of money. But we obviously, I have gone through different experiences. My second company was more and more of a bootstrap experience than anything else, and some of it forced by the fact that Silicon Valley VCs, 35 of them turned me down. So I understand how entrepreneurs feel on that. And our goal is to work with, and this much I can tell you, I mean, I really love working with entrepreneurs, and our job is to make them successful and help them wherever we can, whether we are in the fund, as a fund in the company or not.
So let's take a moment to actually highlight your entrepreneurial experience, just for context for our audience here. Rajeev did one of the most successful EDA, electronic design automation companies in Silicon Valley, Magma Design Automation, and built it to very substantial size from scratch. So Rajeev, are there some highlights that you want to point out there from your journey, just to provide some context for this discussion?
Yeah, so I'm one of the lucky ones, I say, because I only worked a year and a half in a big company. The first 1.5 years of my life at Bell Northern Research, and after that I did my first company in Logic Vision. So being in startups where I have been the boss of myself in some form or shape, right? So it makes life live in a different way. And Logic Vision was my first company. It was a chip design IP company for built-in self-test. It went public in 2001, was formed in 91. Second company was Ambit Design Systems, which I consider as my toughest company because, pretty much we were going up against Goliath Synopsys against what they had. David was the Goliath extreme. 8 guys in a room versus, 200 people in an IPO'd company, and we sold the company for $280 million after the first year of success. So literally 3 years. The company was built into a big success. In the 4th year we sold. And then I did Magma, and again, Magma was at the right place at the right time. We led the low power revolution, as you probably all of you are now using cell phones, and 80 to 90% of cell phones designed up until about 5 years ago were designed using our chips, and after that using Synopsys software, and some now from Cadence software. But we ended up dominating that space of designing low power in 98 when we started out. The timing couldn't have been perfect. We went out right after the economy and internet had tanked, and we raised literally a lot of money because there wasn't very many avenues. Even though the market was down, to see good companies and fund good companies, there weren't a large amount of that. And in 2001, we did our IPO. So literally on the 3rd year of forming the company, we went from 0 to 13 million of revenue, 14 million of revenue. So that was a real growth, and growing literally at 2x to 3x of the numbers. We had a lot of issues subsequent to the IPO, and 11 years of running a public company made me a lot grayer, wiser, older, all aspects of things. There was a year where in 2005 where our biggest competition used litigation as a tactic to control us, so we went through a massive litigation, a very terrible experience where we had an employee who did bring things in, and so had to fight a good fight, which the team did. And so it was a very big roller coaster in the sense that we went up to 125 million in bookings, and then tanked down to 70, and then went back up to 200 million in bookings. So it's sort of like a roller coaster. Spent 2.5 years defending the litigation and winning the litigation, but it was not an easy ride during that 2.5 years of life. That's when you realize as a founder you have to stand up and fight for the rest of the company, and that's a very important portion of what I had to do. Even though every morning when you go to work, when you have that many lawyers, you don't enjoy it. You clearly feel really bad about it.
An aspect of running a company that's not pleasurable at all.
Yeah.
So coming back to your Clear Ventures journey, the current journey, let's double click down a little bit on what stage are you looking for? When you say you're willing to put in very early stage $200,000 of investment, what are you looking for in terms of validation? Are you looking for just concept, pre-revenue, a little bit of revenue, customer validation but not yet revenue? What is comfortable for you?
So comfort is, I mean, we have done all the way where the concept is not fully baked. We have had people just sit here with us, you know, having been an entrepreneur with a lot of contacts that we bring, we take them to some of the customers and, you know, refine the generic idea into a product. We have done investments at that stage. There are 2 companies who sat here in our portfolio, and 3, in 2012 on, I was doing my own angel investments, which were at that stage where the concept was not fully clear. We knew there was an opportunity. For example, there was a company called Robin Systems. We knew there was an opportunity to do, and it actually took some, you know, headwinds and some changes and pivoting to get there. But eventually we got to the point of understanding that we need a generic infrastructure environment using containers, in that particular case, for applications. So very deep, highly distributed applications, allowing them to run at scale. That was what Robin Systems was. But the program was ill-defined. You know, I mean, we helped define it and go from there. We have 2 other companies in our portfolio where it was very early stage. They're not yet announced, where it started out from that, to all the way where, you know, some have the ideas half-baked or half-coded in, and they can show you some demos, in which case we go and talk to their existing customers. In the earlier concept phase, we can actually help by taking them to customers. I have numerous amount of companies who have pitched to us, even if we have not invested in them. They appreciate the fact that we take them to real customers and spend time with them. And I almost act like a VP of sales helping them sell, because it's my job if I'm taking them to customers to help them sell, even though we may not have at that stage done an investment. But it's trying to get that product definition right at the concept stage. We can start from that very early cradle stages. Okay. There is no need for proof for us. We will try to get that proof by working with you and coming to you to customers and helping understand how to refine your product idea into something that works. Right? And so very, very early stage.
Okay. And also double-click down for us in terms of sectors. So you said B2B is the primary comfort zone. Within B2B, where are your, you know, primary relationships? You know, obviously you seem to have relationships where you bring people into customers and so forth. Where are those relationships? What are the unfair advantages that you have in the fund?
So clearly, having run companies where, you know, most of the Fortune 500 have had to buy something or the other, you know, from one of our portfolio companies or one of the companies we have created, that's really where our customer experiences are. But having said that, being not shy, I don't mind calling 20 people and getting them to, visit and spend some time with my portfolio or potential portfolio companies. So it's generally that is our comfort area of B2B, where it could be banks, it could be in the financial sector and the healthcare sector customers. We can go and get to them, or in the retail. I have a company in the retail space called Reflection, where, you know, the customers were all sorts of retail players, where we brought in a founder, Steve Papa, who was the founder of Endeca, who knew and had done a company in that space, and brought him as a co-investor with us to build that relationship, which I frankly lacked. So having him on board gave me the kind of help to get to those customers. So it's a question of trying to figure out how to get there, and each company is different. What we look for is the entrepreneur's drive, entrepreneur's past experiences, and are they credible in the area in which they are claiming to be able to deliver the technology in. I mean, everything else, happy to work with them.
So 2 derivative questions out of that. One is, are you doing cybersecurity?
We have done some security companies. We have one company in cybersecurity, one company in file-based, protecting your files and assets, a company called Vera Systems. So we have done that, but it's a very tough area because it's gotten very niched area where, you know, it's almost like plugging the dam, the dike, and making sure it's stable by finding the little holes in there. And we're a little bit concerned about the valuation prospects of some of those very small hole plugging companies. So we try to give them the advice, but nonetheless, we do look at those companies from time to time.
What is your perspective on mid-market enterprise companies, so B2B companies, not necessarily enterprise companies, because in a lot of sectors, the mid-market is underserved, enterprise is overserved, including in cybersecurity, actually. So how are you viewing mid-market?
So we have done, for example, one of the mid-market companies serving that space is a company called Reflection. Most of the retail vendors that they do is mid-market, not the highest end of the customers. They're now scaling to the highest end of the customers, but they started out with mid-market. And the real delta of what I've seen and observed is in the mid-market, the number of players that are there to support your software is almost zero, or the expertise within those mid-market companies. So you really need to make your software completely, deployable by the least amount of human beings required. It's got to get completely automated. If you're providing software like the high-end Adobe software, etc., you just cannot support and defend that kind of customers. You really need to do that with, the least amount of resources. So we have done one or two companies. Obviously, the advice and the amount of work we need to do with the entrepreneurs is to see how quickly is it deployable, how quickly can we actually get the customer up and running. And you almost have to make it idiot-proof in a very, automatic and complete self-learned way of deployment. And a lot of founders do not think about that because their experience has been on the high end of the enterprise, and they think that can scale to the mid-market. Very, very important to make it, that easy, because you can't afford to build a business where a lot of touch points are there.
And what about geography? What is your comfort zone?
That is very local. We unfortunately like to be in Silicon Valley. When you're doing at the early stage that I mentioned to you, we need to talk to the founders. We will have to go up and down and meet with them quite often. Sometimes they sit in our office. We are happy to go and spend time with them. So we are very geographically, Silicon Valley centric. Obviously, they can have R&D facilities, etc., outside. But when we start, we really want to see companies in Silicon Valley.
Okay. And let's do a few, highlights of your portfolio, and with some context about, when they came to you with what, and what was the thought process that you applied to deciding to invest in them?
Yeah, so let me start with, me and my partner, Chris, we were thinking about the need for protecting file security, much like, essentially, let me just give you a history of a company called Vera, which kind of came and presented to us, and we were the first investors in the company. Before they came to us, thematically, we had concluded that what Snapchat had done, for example, where kids could send pictures and it disappears in 5 minutes, why isn't there a capability for companies to have rules saying, I'm going to give you access for this document for 2 days, but I'm going to withdraw the rights, and you really don't get the whole document. It's always encrypted, and the document calls home, much like it does in Snapchat to just go poof. But can you actually do it with rules to actually control our relationship is for 2 weeks, you can actually read it, so-and-so can read it, but you can't forward it outside your domain or outside within your local control. So we went out and made phone calls, and one of the entrepreneurs that Chris knew, was working on something similar, was in the bowels of another, venture fund, sitting there as EIRs and beginning to work on this. And we went and actively campaigned them to get it going, and became the first investors. And this is a company called Vera, and they provide that level of document security at scale. Again, essentially think of it as Snapchat, but with rules applied at a document and at any file level, providing the security, whether the document be or the file be in any asset, could be on, PowerPoint sitting on a Google Drive, or PowerPoint that you send out an email, the document calls home, sees what your authentication levels and rights are. Based on that, gives you the ability to open the document, print in certain cases, etc. So it is a classic case of the kind of companies we have worked. We have a company in in security that we funded. Again, they had the makings of what they wanted to do, radio security. I mean, if you look at what is happening, a lot of people are stealing badging information, etc., using Bluetooth, sensors and scanners. How do you protect things that connect to via Bluetooth to your computer, and then the computer is connected via Wi-Fi into your internal network? So, like your LTE phone, how do you not prevent the stealing of data through LTE? So all of that, and again, being able to deploy it in mid-market in that particular case is a phenomenal opportunity, because really that's where the crux of the problem is going to be. Very large companies are going to put boundaries and perimeters and put all sorts of control mechanisms to try to control this, but this is a much easier way to control it than anybody has deployed. Again, came in with a rough idea, we had them sit in with us, and the company, I'm not taking their name because they're going to be launching next month, and it's a very interesting company that we have done. All the way to there's a consumer app company which we are in the process of doing, where early stage they have some prototypes. So we can have different differences. We have lots of companies where it could be at different stages. I have a company called Robin Systems, have done a huge contribution in application-defined infrastructure. What we mean by that is, in the early days of the VMware, for example, what they did is they made one computer look like 10 computers, and essentially allowed you to run 10 Windows on one computer. But today's problem has changed upside down when you take applications which are distributed, anything from Oracle, Hadoop, SAP, HANA, etc. You need to make hundreds of computers look like one cluster. And if you're using, siloed environment where you get one set of infrastructure, someone else gets one set of infrastructure, then you're wasting a lot of compute resources. If you try to use virtualization in that space, your performance goes down. The amount of SLA you can provide to your customer, saying this is the performance you're getting to get. But the problem of addressing making one cluster look like one computer, one environment very quickly out of hundreds of resources, and at the same time have somebody else take the spare resources of it and run it and be able to use thousands of machines at the random for hundreds of applications. And we're getting to that point where lots and lots of applications are being written. So how do you provide an infrastructure that gives you that? We think it's as big an opportunity as what Nutanix was. We funded the company, helped them bring in a CEO. In fact, somebody who used to run half of Magma and was one of the main causes of being able to create Magma, runs the company, and the key architect and the CTO came from Veritas. And we were incidental in sort of marrying the two together and helping them meet and get to form the company. So it was a great story in that we not only helped create the company, but we helped put the two people that were key in subsequent releases to get the product out the door and get the customers now in the running. And they're on the hunt for some very big opportunity in that there's nothing that really addresses the efficiency of applications that run on hundreds of computers, be it on cloud or be it on-prem, and hundreds of applications running at the same time and providing certain levels of SLA, certain level of performance for each of those applications.
Excellent. So reversing the question now, if you look at, let's say, the year 2017, what have you seen? What trends have you seen in your deal flow? So how many companies do you see in a year, for example, and how many do you invest in? And what has been the 2017 deal flows nuggets of trends?
So in 2017, my average was I've seen 8 companies a week. I'm just going to give you, my stats, Chris, is around the same, but I've seen 8 companies a week. That's 8 times 52. That's around 400 companies that we have seen too. Of the 400, we invested in probably 6, right? Yeah, 6 companies. So that gives you the velocity. It's almost like 1 in 100, slightly higher than that. But that's the frequency. Again, one of the things that I believe very much in, Sramana, is giving them the feedback helping them, even if we are not the investor, because I tend to believe that, that advice and mentorship, and having gone through, as I told you, my second company, Ambit, where 35 VCs rejected me. So I have an empathy, and I have really feel that helping them is important over and beyond what I do as a venture capitalist.
So what are the trends in there, in that 800
trends, obviously, last year was a year where AI is in everything, whether they have data or not. It's a common pitch item, right? Oh, I do AI.
Silicon Valley lemmings behavior.
Yes, that's the lemons behavior. And unfortunately, the question in AI is, first of all, AI as a service is never going to work. It's basically going to be, because you're going to get Amazon and everything providing AI as a service. It's going to be the applications that AI uses and changes on its head, right? Things that could be done by human beings building models, human beings looking at data and making the decision, that they can be automated. Now, there are two challenges to it. The challenge number one is, can you get the data and can you own the data? For example, we had companies come to me in semiconductors saying, I can do yield optimization via artificial intelligence. Do you really think that TSMC will give you the data? And some of these entrepreneurs who have never been in the space tell me, yeah, we're going to get it. I've been in that space. You won't get that. So you really need the ability to have the data that you need for doing AI. And sometimes that means, striking partnerships, relationship, and then the actual end business application that gives you more value is what is going to give you the benefit of using AI. So we have, out of our 13 companies, about 9 of them use AI underneath them, but I would call 7 of their AI applications as more predictive learning rather than, real deep artificial intelligence. 2 of them are real deep AI. So last year was the year of artificial intelligence. There were like 11 chip companies that we saw even. Very surprising to me, to all the way in different applications making claims that AI is going to be the be-all and end-all solution for all. We did not buy into that thesis. We think that AI will play a role in making an application change the way a current application has been written or done, but the end value is going to be in the vertical use of that AI in an application. So so that's one of the theses that we kind of had during the last 1 year. Looked at that. We saw a number of companies focus with a Series A was getting a little tighter. Seed was getting a lot easier because I think Silicon Valley has had a lot of success with angels and a lot of funds in the 10, 20 million range, et cetera. So seed was getting very easy, and Series A was getting tougher during the last year, and Series B. So it's almost like there's a middle glut of money, and then at the tail end where, Series D, E, F is lots of money. A lot of money. And seed has lots of money. So it was the way we were observing it. And part of it is people's desire. Some people's desire. Some of the startups founders had extreme goals in terms of valuation, raising the valuation unnecessarily. It's this whole unicorn impact that drove them to think that you got to increase your valuation arbitrarily, right? At the end of it, valuation in the early stage is not going to be the differentiation as much as this is from experience. It's how you execute and get the amount of customers and win the customers that will determine your final exit value and your final IPO or whatever valuations you get at the end.
And ridiculous valuations are not a favor, because eventually to get the success for everybody, if you have investors in a business, you're going to need to get an exit. An exit is not going to be based on your last round valuation. Exit is going to be based on your traction. So you better not let the valuation run ahead of itself.
Yeah, it's actually very negative. People don't realize you do that.
Yeah, it's very
negative.
And
then you're to go for a next round, and if it's going down, it actually is going to hurt you tremendously, because there are rights. Even in an IPO, right, there are rights that you've given to the last investors, which is at a higher valuation. You're in a terrible position if you're going with that model, right? So you really need to think through that. and not worry. I mean, about early stage valuation. I always tell us you have to make sure that it's a win-win for you, for all the employees, and for all the investors. And a lot of founders do not realize. I mean, they keep like 70%, 60%, etc. I mean, it is absolutely the kiss of death, because you really want to give your entrepreneurs an opportunity, especially to make their first few, big contribution value. If you do not do that, you're not going to be able to recruit in a Silicon Valley where you have, the Googles, the Facebooks of the world, giving very high salaries. If you want to recruit great talent, then you better have talent which is better than you as a founder. That's a given. Right? I think I was the dumbest guy in some sense in the early days of Magma. I had at one period where everybody in the team had a PhD except me. I mean, and I really loved the fact that that was the case. And I would love to encourage that hire people who are smarter than you.
Well, there are different kinds of smarts, and people who are doing electronic design automation software, having good, solid electrical engineering credentials is very helpful.
Yeah, I mean, but that's true in AI. That's true in every one of the areas, right?
I mean that as a proxy.
Yeah, that is a proxy. So, and the funny thing is, if you don't give them the right amount of options and right amount of, because you can't overpay them. And there are founders who are coming in thinking that we're going to take a large amount of money and we're going to pay them like we were paying at Google, or we were paying at Facebook, etc. You need to understand that's not what you got to get a person coming into your company excited about. You got to get them excited about the stock. The moment you've done that, they are bought into the company, and everyone works towards the same goal of success of the company, and not, just my salary.
Yep. Yeah, and the point that you made about seed capital being abundant and seed fundings being abundant, and then the Series A gap becoming an issue is huge, because I think the numbers are like 50,000 to 70,000 or even more seed financing a year. I don't think we have the 2017 numbers yet, but those have been the numbers for the last 3 years, 2013 onwards. And Series A, B, I mean, the venture number is only about 1,200 to 1,500. So yes, there is a huge drop-off that's happening, and we don't really have a great answer on how to cross that gap, whether it's call it a traction gap or whatever, but you need to show certain levels of validation. But today, the Series A guys are looking for a lot of different metrics and a lot of different validation metrics, traction metrics, velocity metrics, which are not necessarily being tackled by the companies who have raised just seed money. So it's been a very tricky environment, and as you point out, there are 500 to 600 micro VCs in the market right now who are funding tons and tons and tons of companies at the seed stage. The game has changed. Seed used to be the harder round to get, and now the game has changed. Seed there's a lot of money slushing around in seed. Yeah,
there's too much money in seed, and I mean, a lot of people think that they can write 50K checks and 500K. One of the things I'm mighty proud, and my partner Chris is mighty proud about, is we have done in our history about 65 to 70 companies. This includes all the angel investments I did since Ambit in '98 on to the investments that Chris had done at USVP and Sequoia. Out of the 670 companies, close to 70 companies we've done, all of them have gone on to raise Series A and B, and that applies even today. Right. So we take great pride in picking companies where we think there's a very good rate of closing Series A and Series B, and we spend a lot of time with the companies to making sure that those metrics are thought about right from day one. And even if the metrics are not sky high, set your metrics clearly and deliver to those metrics, and that's the challenge, right? And your valuation may be low if your metrics were only X, Y, Z, but it's better to get that rather than not have any clear metrics that you want to succeed towards, and showing the new investors that, look, this is my goal. I have continuously hit my goals, and I will continuously hit the next milestone goal. So that confidence is what you need to show. And that's the challenge. A lot of the early stage people do not not run companies like in a public company where you have to hit the numbers or whatever the metrics are. And nowadays, if you do the seed investments, you need to think about it at that stage.
Yeah. So last question, what is your TAM preference? And I'll tell you where I'm coming from. We are in 2018 January. There is a lot of stuff that has been built already, and there aren't, as you said earlier in the context of cybersecurity, there are a lot of niche opportunities, but there aren't as many or as abundant multi-billion-dollar opportunities lying around. So I talk to a lot of investors, and including a lot of these micro VCs. Everybody says, or not everybody, but a lot of people say they want to do in unicorn valuation. So that means they want billion-dollar market, multi-billion-dollar market opportunities, and so forth. And I'm constantly wondering, it's like, wait a minute, there are 200, 300 million TAM opportunities, in some cases maybe $100 million TAM opportunities, where if you build a robust company with very big market share, you become like the dominant player in a niche that has a smaller TAM. That is also an opportunity for making a lot of money. Are these opportunities that you would consider, or are these not part of your
Again, while we may look at some of them on a case-by-case basis, the chances are low, because I believe that the number one thing that helps an entrepreneur is the wind behind them in terms of the size of the market. If the market is big, your execution can have one or two hiccups and you will still succeed. If the market is small, the chances of that is very low, because you got a one path and you got a one path of execution. So obviously, market is almost as important, if not more important sometimes, than the team. I mean, I have seen companies.
I actually agree with that. There's different points of views in Silicon Valley on that topic. I agree with you. I think market is more important than.
So to me, number one is market. Number two is team. Obviously, both. It's a very tight call between the two of them.
Both of them.
Both of them is important. Everything else is sort of immaterial, and that's what we when I told you we take it at very early stage. When we are trying to refine the product development, we are looking at the TAM and we are saying, okay, this portion is better, founder XYZ. Let's go and do that. Your technology is great for that. And it's important to realize that the market makes a lot of difference. And a $100 million market, et cetera, is very, very difficult to build a company on, because you make two execution mistakes and you're fried. And what ends up happening is, if the technology is not complex, actually, I mean, it has to be complex enough that it's not easy for 10 guys sitting in some other place, not having the expertise in Silicon Valley, but can compete against you right away. You need to have that 1 or 2 years of delta and the gap that you can put. If you can't, it becomes very, very difficult, especially in enterprise companies. In consumer, obviously, being able to capture eyeballs and capture customers and how fast can you move does make a lot of difference. And sometimes you don't need that, what I just said. But there you need a lot more capital than what people have thought, because if you look at all the companies which have built marketplaces, they have had to take a lot of money. But the metric still requires you to kind of get down to a certain set of number of users and make sure that you're tracking that, right? So it's very, very important to have market behind us. So in our particular case, we look for the total available market as almost the number one priority. We work with the founders to help you define that, as well as sometimes help you saying, maybe this technology is better used for that. Let's go move to doing that in the very early stage. It's very, very important to me.
All right. Well, excellent conversation, Rajeev. I know you have a meeting, and we're going to start the mentoring portion of the program. Thank you for coming, and we'll keep in touch, and I'll send you some things to look at soon.
Thank you, Sriman, and thanks very much. Bye.
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 Folks, we are going to do the entrepreneur pitch session next. Let me set some expectations here. Remember, this is a working session, and we are on your side, so you can feel completely safe. We have no other agenda whatsoever other than helping you move forward with your businesses. It is possible that you might disagree with my feedback. That's okay. It's your venture. You will make the decision. Just listen, take the input, process the input, listen to the recordings, maybe process the input and see what you want to do with what input you're getting here. Remember, not all businesses can raise money, and not all businesses should raise money. Some businesses do not have the characteristics of a venture-style startup, but still can be a successful venture. You can still build, customers' revenues and profits, and that's fine. And raising money also doesn't guarantee success necessarily. So we're going to go to Pavan Nandan. Pavan, please unmute your line and tell us what you're doing. Pavan is dialing from Hyderabad, India.
Greetings. My name is Pavan Nandan, and I've developed CreepBeep. CreepBeep is an anti-creep app, and basically CreepBeep, it can only be used by women, and we figured that out by using Facebook login authentication. And that is the whole point of the app, is to provide a consistency of ratings so that the user can view those ratings and then decide which place to move on to, which place to go to. We initially developed a prototype, which is currently available on the App Store. We also have a website which defines and which talks about what our app is about and what our vision is about. So that is what we are here to do here. Next slide, please. Yeah, our target user is basically users who are in transition, who move from rural to urban spaces, or from a different space, they move to a new place. And are obviously, as this is a gender segmented app, our target users again are urban women at the age of 18 to 40, and who are also heavy users of social media, and who check in, who do regular check-ins when to the places they visit. And that is our target user. And the problem here we are looking at is our target segment does not have an avenue to know how secure the place is. And this is primarily because the existing apps do deal with subjective elements. However, but they do not capture, they only capture ambience, food, or staff behavior. However, they do not capture something which is emotional. This is especially relevant to places that attract a lot of young crowd and are open around the clock. And our solution is very simple. We want to develop a mobile application that allows consumers to rate a particular place they visited solely on their behaviors, solely on the behaviors they observe. And for example, the app will ask the user if the staff help them select through their menu proactively and not ask whether they like the variety presented in the menu. It is not about the menu, but how the consumer is made to feel about the menu that defines the experience for the consumer. Our app is pushing the boundary in feedback generation by moving away from the presenting objective standards to subjective experience of consumers. We want our consumers to feel at home in any place they visit by using our app. So in terms of customer acquisition, our first priority is obviously to build awareness around the app, which we have already started. We have a Facebook page, which we are active on. We do interact with a lot of people because we haven't launched the app live. We interact in terms of if there's an app, something like this, would there be a lot of usage? And we do get a lot of feedback, and we take that feedback down to incorporate that into the app. The main marketing strategy would be App Store optimization and mobile marketing. And during the initial days of the launch, that would be very essential for growing the app and gaining a lot of traction. And also, customer retention is also very useful. Most of the apps are deleted immediately from a phone in the period of 7 days. Hence, we do have a lot of features in the app which we'll be designing, which has engagement and rating prompts, which will also drive our customer retention really high. Next slide, please. As I said before, we are just a prototype. Hence, the app was only built to convey the idea or the intent of the app, to take in a lot of feedback and to consider that feedback and to incorporate into the app and to see how the users are reacting. However, we ran a small campaign on a Facebook page. We spent around $62, which is not a lot, but the campaign received around 30,000 impressions, and that is $2.
Did you get any downloads?
This is a prototype app, so all downloads which happened were done on sole purpose of feedback. We went to people and asked them to download the app, people who I know personally, to take feedback from them. This is the app which is currently present on the App Store.
So there is no validation as such. 30,000 impressions doesn't really validate anything. Unless there is actual engagement with customers, there's no validation.
Yes, if that is the case, then true. Then there isn't any validation as such. But it is a prototype. That is what we built, because we built the prototype in a very financially in a frugal way. We spent only $300. I'm not a guy from tech, but I developed it through a freelancer. So we built the app in a very basic way.
Pavan, are you doing this full time, or do you have a job?
I left my job 3 months ago to concentrate on this. I've started. I'm working on this for the past 3 months.
So I see you're asked, you're looking for funding to develop this app. I can tell you nobody will give you funding to develop the app, which is why I asked you the question, do you still have a job or not? I would recommend that you get yourself a job and do this as a bootstrapping with a paycheck. Apps like this are perfect for a bootstrapping with a paycheck kind of model, where you're bootstrapping, you have a day job, you're doing things, systematically. You have cash to, you're not cash strapped, and you do this on the side, because there is absolutely no chance of raising any financing for this at this stage. I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but there's so little validation and so little done at this point. Apps only get financing after you've shown significant traction. And here you haven't even completed the app, so there's no chance of this getting funded.
Okay. Can you give me some kind of feedback regarding the app in terms of what we are trying to do? What you're trying
to do is all very well. How you're going to monetize it is the real question. Businesses are built not on usage, but on monetization. And the reason you're going to need to pay huge attention to that right now is, very often people like in your shoes often come back and tell me that we're going to monetize by advertising. Well, advertising monetizes very poorly. If you look at an article that I wrote recently, go to the website, go to the blog, 1M1M blog, and see this article called "Why Does the Indian Market Continue to Disappoint?" It's under opinions. You will see what I talk about. One of the numbers that I talk about is that Facebook, with 240 million users, has only $50 million of revenue in India. Now that is a very, very poor monetization number. If you extrapolate from their monetization number, and their CPMs, their ad rates are the highest in the industry because they have identity. They really can provide an incredible degree of precision in whom you're targeting. So in your case, it's going to be unbelievably tricky to do this with advertising. So the question is there any chance that you can get people to actually pay for your app? And if I have my doubts, because in India people don't pay to, download apps and use apps very much either. And nowhere in the world they do very much. There are a few things, there are a few categories where we see a bit of paid app usage, but very little. So I think the chances, the big gaping question in my mind in your business is monetization. And until you have a compelling answer for that, I would recommend that go get a job. Don't spend your time full-time on this business.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We have Paul Colquitt as the next presenter. Paul? Are you there, Paul? I see Paul in the panel.
Okay, Ms. Mitra.
Yeah, there we go. Go ahead.
Okay. Hi, my name is Paul Colquitt. I'm the founder of the Nuclear Network. If you could, next slide. Okay. To clearly and accurately express the functions and specifics pertinent, I'd like to introduce and use some innovative terminology that might better serve to explain, illustrate, and define the custom applications, metrics, and scopes of activity that is applicable herein with the solution. Let's use the language and approach or style as a simple and informal way to communicate effectively and cover generalized concepts in a more efficient and timely manner. sometimes or at times it requires a refreshed approach and outlook on recurring conditions or problems that are resolvable or mendable, improved and reprised for greater throughput, diligence, and effectiveness and resolution. This company will be capable of such since the dynamic structuring of it transcends the multiple frontiers of capacity according to each premise addressed and focused through professional disciplines and the applications of advanced developments in each area, region, and occasion. The results of all activities should prove beneficial to all parties, entities, and industries in a non-competitive but developmental manner. If you could, the next slide. Streamlining unlimited values by sustainable, cost-effective, and subsequently costly premium to consumers by leveraging the network capacities to culminate and fulfill all goals and objectives.
Paul,
Sure.
I would like you to stop for a moment. So far, you've spent already over a minute. I have understood absolutely nothing. So let's, and your slides are absolutely unreadable and unusable in this kind of a format. Slides have to have only a very few, words of text on each slide to really be able to be useful. And you have all this paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff, and that's not helpful.
Might I consolidate the information then and summarize it maybe in a more simplified manner?
I don't. I'm going to ask you questions, and I would like you to answer those questions, and I think that will be a more productive way of our getting somewhere with this. Who is your customer? Can you define very precisely who is your target customer?
Underemployed, underutilized professionals, and the unemployed.
Unemployed and underemployed professionals in any particular sector, or just generically underemployed professionals?
Maybe to better explain this, the network is just a professional network of professionals and scholars that cohesively work together to achieve common goals and initiatives. We meet on a weekly basis through seminars and meetings.
So
and through this
you are trying to do a professional network and content company like LinkedIn, but for a specific segment of unemployed and underemployed professionals. Is that what you're saying?
No, well, that would more so serve as a target consumer who would benefit the most, but the independent business owner would benefit just as much as an unemployed person in this capacity, in this setting.
And what is the pain that you're solving of your customer, target customer?
Their economic conditions that they're in. Currently, especially in my demographic, there isn't a more sophisticated approach and intelligent manner to fulfill needs of unemployment or gaps in industry. And we serve to not work as a union, but as a professional network that has features that inform each member and peripheral participant with everything active, dynamic, and ongoing with the day-to-days or each quarter's market needs and demands, area specific.
So it's some sort of a community forum where people come to as a business network?
To more simply put it, as a network, when you join and you pay your premium, you're entitled to core services, which is listed in the previous slide, 2 slides prior. By engaging with an agent that you're assigned by being a member, whether you're one more slide, by being a member, you are actively able to benefit from those core services, and in doing so, the agent will link you with the according principal that is able to fulfill your needs. It's this slide previously. I apologize. Here at the bottom.
So, Paul, I'm going to send you back to the drawing board to do a much better pitch, because this pitch is not, we can't really work with this pitch. This is really, really low quality pitch, and you really need to learn how to do a higher quality pitch. So there are instructions in our forum. There are numerous recordings. If you go to our YouTube channel and listen to a bunch of recordings of pitches, other people who have pitched, you will learn how to pitch. Maybe listen to 10 recordings of prior roundtables and really get a feel for how to pitch a company, okay?
All right.
All right, well, So, folks, if you like what we are doing here, and as you can see, the feedback is absolutely sugar-coated. If we think that your company is not fundable, we'll tell you that. If you think your company is not, your business idea is not monetizable, we'll tell you that. If we think your presentation needs work, we'll tell you that. But you have to have appetite for that kind of direct feedback. And if you do have the appetite, that's when you actually learn from this forum. So if you like this strategy, if you like this, dynamic of this, this community, please bring serious entrepreneurs into 1M by1M. All our resources are at 1M1M.com. You'll find a blog that is chock full of interesting information. The Entrepreneur Journeys book series is also a great learning material. There are 12 volumes of those books. And if you are, if you have doubts, by the way, about bootstrapping with a paycheck, go read the Bootstrapping with a Paycheck. For example, there are lots of very serious, very successful companies that have been built using bootstrapping with a paycheck as the primary methodology to bootstrap to validation. And we have no problems at all with that. Most accelerators do not support bootstrapping with a paycheck. We do. All the rest of the books, each of them double-click down on specific topics, and you will find lots of depth in each of those topics through those books. So that's a good starting point for your learning as well. These roundtables happen every week, so keep an eye on the free public roundtable page for the schedule, and you can register. Our full acceleration program is 1M1M Premium, and through that you will learn extensive methodology. We have a great curriculum that's an online curriculum, video lectures and case study based. We help you with business development, strategy consulting. We have these kinds of roundtables, members-only private roundtables every week as well. And we help you with financing and media relations. Go to the 1M1M self-assessment on the 1M1M blog. This is available for free, and ask these questions of your business. It's a very good way to see where you are in your strategic planning, how robust is your strategic plan. If you're getting stuck in terms of methodology on how to do this and how to do positioning and how to do a bottom-up market analysis, market sizing, etc., go do 1M1M Basic. That's a curriculum-only option. You can, rapidly, we have more than 400 hours worth of curriculum, but you can rapidly run through, let's say 50 hours worth of core curriculum and plug a lot of your methodology gaps, and it's very worthwhile doing that. So that's pretty much it. Go to the website, look around, see if this is the right program for you. It may not be the right program for you, by the way. Only people who can work with a lot of self-learning, with the motivation for a lot of self-learning, the discipline, and the rigor of self-learning can be successful in the 1 Million by 1 Million program. And my thesis is that entrepreneurs can only be successful if they have that rigor and that dynamic of rigorous self-learning. So there are lots of FAQs, video FAQs about the program, description of the curriculum. You'll find the entire curriculum is based on case studies and interactions with hundreds and hundreds of successful entrepreneurs. I think we have more than 800 successful entrepreneurs, about 100 or so investors who have participated in helping us build this platform for you to learn from. Our methodology is lean, capital efficient bootstrap startups. Even if you raise money, you're going to most likely have to bootstrap first, and then you will have the chance to raise money. So that's pretty much it. We have free roundtables every week in February, and we also have in-person rendezvous every week, every Wednesday actually. We are meeting at 5 p.m. Pacific at Cafe Boroni in Menlo Park. So go to the website and register for any of these gatherings, whatever suits you, and you can come to multiple. We are very approachable, very available, and very accessible as far as getting help is concerned. So that's it. Line is open right now for Q&A, open Q&A, and also the public chat is open for public Q&A. You can ask any amount of questions in either format. You can introduce yourself, tell us who you are, where you're dialing from, what you're working on, so we can get to know you and you can get to know one another. So it is a networking session now as well. So I see a few questions. Let me start taking some questions here. Amarish is asking, greetings, this was a wonderful session. Where do I send my pitch for feedback? You're going to have to sign up to pitch at a free public roundtable, so go to that page on the public website and register to pitch, and Maureen will send you instructions on what will follow. Vinayak Raghu, you're sending me private messages. Don't send me private messages. Here we go. He's also sent it in public. I'm attending after considerable time. During starting days of 1M by1M, I had browsed the series. Has come up very well. Love the concept, and thank you for your effort, and congrats on taking it forward. Thank you, Vinayak. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming back and stopping by. Paul Colquitt, is there anyone who would take time to learn my company and its offering, unique composition, and potential for startup support partnerships? So that's, he's asking this question to the audience. If any of you are interested in corresponding with Paul, please feel free to let him know your preferred communication mode. Anybody else here? I want to address someone in the audience who sent me a private message overnight. Chirag Sangavi, you sent me a message asking for guidance. So if you already have an idea, you're welcome to come and pitch at one of the public roundtables, one of the upcoming sessions. If you're looking for methodology guidance, my suggestion to you would be to go start studying with 1M by1M Basic. So start doing the curriculum and start getting that methodology under your belt, and through that process you will be able to find an idea to work on as well. But if you're still looking for an idea, that may be the better route to go. Often, if you're still looking for an idea, the best way we recommend is to go start immersing yourself in the curriculum. We have 400 hours plus of curriculum, both core curriculum as well as industry-specific elective modules, and hundreds and hundreds of case studies and trend analysis. So you immerse in that material, you will come up with ideas, we believe. Any other questions? Elizabeth Brady, are the Wednesday in-person meetings only for pitching or also for advice on taking an idea to the next step? No, those are not for pitching at all. Those are pure, free-flowing conversations. So you can come and ask any questions you like. We don't have any formal pitches. We don't have any formal speeches. It's completely informal, just chatting. Anybody else? Any other questions, comments, issues that you want to discuss? While you're thinking about that, let me introduce you to Irina Patterson. Irina's email is irina@1mby1m.com. Feel free to email her if you have questions about the program. And again, open Q&A right now. Other questions, comments? No? Would you like to introduce yourself? Anybody in the room, if you would like to just introduce yourself, that's fine too. We love to get to know people who are coming to these sessions. It's a great opportunity for networking also. Are there any questions from the group that is assembled in Miami at the WeWork location, where I know we are doing a meetup with you with WeWork. You're also welcome to introduce yourselves. All right, folks, if nobody has questions, comments, feedback, introductions, then we're going to wrap up the session, and we will meet you back here next week, or maybe we'll meet you at the in-person session in Menlo Park in Silicon Valley next week. Talk to you soon. Have a very productive week in the meantime. Amarish is asking, do you also help connect to the right VC, post a good pitch? Amarish, if you want to be introduced to anybody, whether it's VC or customers, potential channel partners, etc., you need to be in the premium program, and you need to be fundable. We're going to work with you to get you there, but we don't introduce anybody unless you're in the premium program and unless you have worked with us to get to a stage where, by our judgment, your project looks fundable. So it's not an automatic introduction at all. If you have further questions, Amarish, on how the program works, you're welcome to contact Irina, and she'll be happy to help you. Folks, I'm about to adjourn the session, so if you have any other questions before I do that, please speak up. So one more time, Irina's email is irina@1mby1m.com. Any of you can contact her, and she will be very patient and very happy to help you answer any questions that you need to be answered. All right, folks, we'll see you soon. Good luck with everything. Bye-bye.